when I realised this is a real person. I'd really read the book with a framing of thinking it must be fiction. And the worse the book got, the more I was like, this cannot have happened to somebody. Hi, I'm Rebekah Lisgarten, the CEO of Stop the Traffik, a human trafficking prevention charity. So I was 15, I was in a supermarket with my mum, had gone off to the book aisle and found a book that I could read. Found one, it was called Slave Girl by Sarah Forsyth, and I read it pretty much in that weekend, which is quite a challenge for me. I'm dyslexic, so I can't really read that quickly, but I couldn't put it down once I'd started it. I was completely hooked on wanting to know, I wanted to know she was okay. I had a real sense of, oh my gosh, are you going to get out of this? And I think because I had that frame of thinking it was fiction, I felt nervous through the book that she wasn't going to make it. Obviously, knowing that she's actually written the book, I probably could have known that wasn't going to happen. And I felt like a connection to her. I think that happens when someone's a really great writer, but I felt that she was telling me her story. And because she was trafficked when she was 17, I was 15, there were some similarities in some of the stuff she'd experienced before she was trafficked. So as I was reading it, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is something I would do. And then when she gets to what she thought was going to be a nanny job in Holland, her passport's taken away from her, gun to her head, and she's held in sexual exploitation for around 7 years. Then it's her story of how she ultimately escaped. But when I was reading it, I was thinking, surely you just go tell the police, surely you just run away. But they would send in fake people pretending to be police officers. She was assaulted by people that she thought might help her. And so you're kind of on the journey with the person writing the book of understanding why she can't just run away. And then it's about her life afterwards and some of the complexities, I guess, just really terrible things happen to somebody. And then at the end of the book, it talks about her life now. I was completely floored when I realised this is a real person. I'd really read the book with a framing of thinking it must be fiction. And the worse the book got, the more I was like, this cannot have happened to somebody. And so then when you read about her life now and who she is and some more details of her as a mother and as a sister and as something I could really resonate with, I was so shocked. I'm really upset by it. I hadn't really been exposed to something like that. I hadn't heard about human trafficking. And I remember going and speaking to my mum afterwards and asking her about it. She kind of said Lucy heard about it on the news, but she didn't really think it happened here. And it was a terrible thing that happened, but she didn't really know anything about it. And I spoke to a lot of people in my life at the time, and everyone had a pretty similar answer for me. Oh gosh, yeah, it's terrible. But no one could tell me where, why, or how that this was happening. And I couldn't, at the beginning, get a sense of, is this just this one crazy thing that's happened to this really unfortunate person? Or how big is this problem? And it was a bit of a thread that I started, I guess, to pull at. And the internet wasn't what it is now. So my main source of information was asking people, friends, family, and kind of community to try to understand it more. And I remember the relief I felt when I got to the last chapter. I was genuinely nervous of I need her to be okay. And I think we sometimes put that onto somebody, we join in their story and we're we need you to be okay. And that was kind of what she experienced. The world needed her. They couldn't cope with what happened to her, let alone help her. And obviously it's not a nirvana that you suddenly reach and suddenly you're okay, but it does give you hope at the end of the book that she'd managed through her own strength and her own resilience to get to a different place and build some stability and safety. I think people feel safer in black and white. Greyness is hard for human psychology. And I'd felt in my life there'd been quite a lot of greyness. And so it definitely resonated for me of the journey after trauma is not straightforward. And I think it doesn't always come from a bad place and people want it to be straightforward. It's because it's what feels safe for us. But it was hugely complex. And the system isn't built to support victims and survivors of modern slavery. And so if you fall out of the black and white neat boxes, there are gaps in the systems that are meant to support you. And it doesn't mean there's not brilliant people within those systems fighting for something to be different. I had an obsession of trafficking. It changed something undramatically in my head and my heart that had never happened for me. Supporting people out of essentially red light districts that only have children in them in Cambodia was definitely a change moment for me of really solidifying, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And that sense has never left me of, when I read the book to when I was there, I cannot believe this happens to people. And I want to spend my time doing whatever I can to change that.